Welcome back, everybody. I'm Glenn McGowan. This is Atlas Bowen. This is part 2 of my Porsche transformation series. Last week I did the suspension. I put BC Racing coilovers on the car and essentially left it at that. It's still on jack stands. And the next step today is that I'm going to be actually painting my calipers red. This is just a Carrera 2, where if you would have had a Carrera S, you'd have red calipers on there, which I don't. So I'm essentially going to be painting them red. Now, there's a couple ways you can do this. So you can spray paint them, or you can brush on the paint, or have them powder coated. My plan is to actually keep them hooked up, brake line anyway, hooked up. I'm not disconnecting that, but I'm going to take them essentially off the car, pull the pads off, pull the rotor out, hang it, mock it up somewhere in there, tape everything off, essentially creating a paint booth in each wheel well. I'll cover the car, all that. I'll tape everything off meticulously, and then I'm going to use a spray paint on there. A lot of times people will keep the caliper on the car, they'll get the brush on paint and just kind of paint it on there. I'm not the biggest fan of that approach. I've done this like technique essentially on a lot of cars throughout the years, and it really turns out nice. I mean, ideally to have them off the car is probably the best way to do that, but you know, once you start disconnecting the brake hoses and stuff, you got to bleed everything out, and it's a whole hoo-ha. So kind of just avoiding that, but I'm going to take my time and tape everything off and do it really nicely. So a couple things that I got to do this. Obviously, you're going to need a ton of brake cleaner, several cans, just to get everything super clean. The paint that I went with is VHTs, their heat paint. I've used this for exhaust parts and calipers like countless times, and it holds up really well. A lot of my cars have this, and it's been like years, and it's still on there, and it hasn't like faded or changed color or anything like that. So I kind of just stick with this stuff because, you know, I know that it's going to work out really well. Besides that, masking, tape, like any kind of paper or plastic. I have a car cover that I'm going to cover the whole car with because the red's going to kind of essentially go everywhere. So you really want to take your time and mask everything up, all inside the wheel well, the strut, you know, everything like that as much as you can, because you don't want any overspray in there because it just looks really junky. Red scuff pads to, you know, scuff the caliper up and stuff like that. Another thing I got too from, I believe it was Suncoast Porsche parts, are the little white Porsche stickers for the caliper when I'm done, so it'll look nice and fresh essentially. So my plan is now is that I'm going to take the rotors off the front. The calipers are already unbolted on the front of this car because I took them off when I was doing the coilovers in the front. So I have to unbolt the rear ones, but I'm going to start in the front here. I'm going to get the rotor off, like I said, and I'm going to figure out a way to kind of like mock or hold the caliper essentially in place so I can essentially just start prepping and get it ready for paint. So first things first, we're going to get in here. You are going to need a Torx, I believe it is a 55, to take off the caliper bolts, which looks like that. So these hold these down into the knuckle. So that's one thing you'll need if you go down the road and do this. So we'll start here in the front and then work our way around the car.
This week's video is brought to you by LCOBMW parts. Visit our online store for E36, E46, and E90 parts, or follow us on Instagram at LCOBMW. All the links are in the description below.
So if you look in here, I already have the caliper off and I have it hanging by a bungee cord, but I just wanted to show you a couple things. So there is the connector here for the brake pad wear sensor that I disconnected up here like this, and there's a 10mm bracket there holding that on, and then you can see this is where the bolts are that bolt the caliper to the knuckle. So now I'm going to just take these two screws out of the rotor here. Get this off. I did give the inside here a smack with a rubber mallet just to kind of loosen it up a little bit. It's kind of seized on there. And that's what that looks like there. So I took a bolt and I cut the head off of it, an extra bolt I had, and I'm essentially running it into the knuckle here. So now I can actually hang the caliper on this thing and keep it up out of the way like that. So now I can take the brake pads out and everything, and I can also move it down here if I have to. So when I'm ready to paint it, I can just hang it there, have everything taped off, and then paint it and not have to worry about it moving around or banging against the car. So get the pads out and all the little rubber caps for the bleeders off. So now I'm just gonna brake clean everything really good to make sure all the brake dust is off everything. Now I'm gonna take my red scuff pad and I'm gonna just scuff the whole caliper and get in all the little grooves just so the paint sticks in there. This gets a lot of the brake dust that's like stuck on there too. And then we're gonna brake clean this like 4 or 5 more times just to get everything off, make sure it's exceptionally clean. Okay, so I got it scuffed. I brake cleaned it one more time. Now I got some rags here that I'm gonna just kind of wipe it down again. I mean, the brake dust is just nasty, so you really wanna make sure it's all off or the paint's not gonna stick. Now I'm just gonna come in here, wipe most of this off, and then tape up the slides and then the pistons and the lines and stuff like that. I think the hardest part of this job is essentially getting everything clean. It's just really nasty and messy. All right, so I'm just about done finishing up my little paint booth in here for this caliper. So I have it hung here. I got this whole area masked off. I actually have plastic wrapped around the whole knuckle and the actual coilover itself. I masked that off separately since I just got it brand new. Don't want any red paint on there. So I'm going to cover the car. I'm going to brake clean this thing one more time. And then also I have a tack cloth, which is going to essentially get any lint or anything that's like from the rags from cleaning it off of it before I actually spray it. Okay, so first coat. So I'm essentially just going to dust color on here, really, really light, let it tack up. And then I'll start putting a couple other more coats so it covers a little bit better. But essentially we just want to lay some paint down just so it kind of sticks on there. While I have the caliper off, I'm actually going to paint the hat of this a high temp black color, mainly for one reason, which I'll tell you in probably the next video, but I'm essentially just freshening this up so it looks a lot nicer. Now, the rotors are in really good condition on this car, and the pads are essentially new. That's why I'm not replacing any of that. But if you are going to do pads and rotors on your car, that's probably the perfect time to actually paint the calipers, because you're essentially taking everything apart anyway. I'm just, essentially just painting the calipers. So my pads are good, my rotors are good, but now that I'm gonna put that nice painted caliper on there, I want the rotor to look fresh too. So I'm gonna just paint a couple coats of black on this, and should do the trick. So I got like 2 coats or so on here now, and it's coated pretty good. So I'm gonna put one more on here, and I'm just gonna kind of go around and make sure I'm not missing any areas, because the way it's kind of sitting here is kind of hard to get to the back of it. So I'm just gonna hit it one more coat and then probably let it dry for a while, and then pick it up, move it, and then look in the back, kind of inspect it to see if I missed any spots, because there's so many like little areas that are kind of hard to get in, and especially because there's not that much room to get behind here. But so far it actually looks really good. So I just finished one side, got my sticker on there, and it looks really, really good. Caliper turned out nice too. All right, so one's done, so 3 more to go. So that's gonna be a little over 2 hours to do that. Cleaning, taping everything off, letting the paint dry. That's like key, because you don't want to touch it and when you're putting the pads back in and mess it all up. So I think I have it down to a system now, so I should be able to kind of like cruise through this and knock the rest of them out. Okay, so I have both front calipers done. They look awesome with the painted rotors and the Porsche sticker on there. It looks really, really good, nice and clean. So last two right now, kind of home stretch here. So I'm kind of cutting my time down in half now. I'm kind of getting into the rhythm of the process here. So it shouldn't take me that much longer. All right, so that's a wrap. So all in all, that turned out really, really good. I'm super happy with the way it looks. It's like such a clean look now. Red calipers really make it pop, and that Porsche sticker is mint. Besides that, wasn't a lot of money to do. You're talking about 20 bucks, I think, for the red paint, and you can probably do all 4 calipers with one can. Another like 12 or 13 bucks for the high heat black paint that I did the rotors with, and then the Porsche stickers were $2.50 each. So not a lot of money, under 50 bucks to do that whole thing. It's just labor intensive, obviously, but besides that, totally worth it. And if you're doing a great job, it's kind of like the perfect time to paint them or refresh them since you have everything off anyway. So I got one more thing left to do before I put this thing back on the ground, which we'll get to next week. So if you enjoyed the video, hit that like button. Thanks for watching.